Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about why are these the most played missions on Ready or Not. Now, I'm not going to go in order here, but the most common one was Thank You Come Again. And the reason why this is, and it's super obvious, is that it's the first level everybody plays. So everyone has to play it to play the other levels. Honestly, to some degree, it's kind of, I think this should be excluded from the most played missions simply because it's the first mission everyone has to play. Therefore, it's always going to be the most played mission, theoretically, especially if you also have people who aren't playing the game for very long. They're only going to play one mission, and this is the mission that they'll be playing. So honestly, even though this is one of the most played missions, I don't think this mission is very entertaining or good. But moving on from that, I do want to point out that Sins of the Father, that image that they're using is not from Sins of the Father. It's actually from Ides of March, just kind of hilarious, but I assume they mean Sins of the Father, not Ides of March, even though I love that level too, but wanted to point that out. I'm not sure if these are in order, but 23 megabytes per second is probably one of the best maps in Ready or Not in terms of actual gameplay, simply because it offers the most opportunity for the most interesting layouts, and the enemies aren't too challenging. They don't really have body armor. You're kind of able to use any weapon you want. It gives a lot of freedom, and it makes the game a little bit more fun. You can take out suspects pretty easily. It has a target that you need to subdue either with non-lethal, and it has a really awesome end to the map, which I consider the end, since a lot of the time you're entering this room last a lot of the time, simply because it is the room that is essentially the hornet's nest of the map. In terms of design, there's great storytelling, there's interesting aesthetics to the level, multiple entryways to certain areas. It's a very dynamic map, and it does add for a lot of replayability. So for me, honestly, 23 megabytes per second is also one of my favorite maps I love to play, especially if you're just starting and trying to get warmed up. This is a really nice map to get warmed up on. So the next one is Thank You Come Again. And the reason why this one's probably the most popular is because it's the first level everybody plays. I'm not even sure if they should count this as one of the most played missions, since it's kind of like the mission you have to play. And since Thank You Come Again is absolutely the first mission, somebody who's new to the game will buy it, play this one mission, and then stop playing. And that's going to be a big boost in the most played missions, of course, for that very reason. And honestly, I believe that's why it's the most played, because honestly, Thank You Come Again isn't even the first level. It feels like a tutorial almost to some degree, because they have very low caliber weapons, and 23 megabytes also has this too, but the difference is that they actually have a little bit more firepower. They're not just using pistols, for example, or sawed-off shotguns, which apparently just suck apparently whenever when suspects are using them, since a lot of the time you can take a point-blank shot to the face with when they have a shotgun, which is still really comical to me to some degree, but whatever. And Grease Palms is obviously the most played map simply because it's the hardest one. So you lose and you die a lot, and this is one of the harder maps to do, especially when you're progressing through the game and then you reach this sticking point. For a lot of people, this is a very difficult sticking point for a map. It's kind of like 23 megabytes, but because of the map design, it allows for this huge room with minimal points of cover, generally speaking, and a lot of tiny little sightlines and these like little cracks that allow enemies to shoot at you from unknown locations, because they just have laser Terminator vision, thermal heat vision, and they can see everything you do apparently from 10 miles away, and the insane accuracy over distances, especially on the harder difficulties. Honestly, Grease Palms, the start of the map, is really cool, and there are some really awesome elements in Grease Palms, and it is, once again, you have that another thing where you need to use some form of non-lethal to subdue the undercover FISA agent. So that's definitely why Grease Palms is definitely the most played missions. I don't think it was the most played simply because people wanted to play it. It was the most played simply because it was a difficult sticking point that people would fail and then play again because they kind of had no choice, right? Because they're trying to progress through the game. Now, Sins of the Father, I'd like to point out that the image for Sins of the Father, that image is actually from Ides of March, the sniper table. You can see that's one of the objectives on Ides of March. So I assume they're actually referring to Sins of the Father, since that's the actual text and not the actual image. So they must have messed up on that one right there. But that is not from Sins of the Father, just so you know. So it's a funny little mistake there. But honestly, Sins of the Father is one of my most favorite maps. Honestly, the scenery and the theme of everything, and it was like the rain. Everyone that I've ever played this with who hasn't played this map before, everyone had the same reaction, like, wow, this is cool, like this feels awesome. It's raining, it's dark, you know, you're entering out from the outside, it's a very cool feeling. And the first time I played it, I loved it. It just was so immersive, and it just felt so cool. It felt like I wanted to put night vision on and laser sights and everything. It made you feel really, really cool whenever you were playing at this level. And this is a good level too, because I also really enjoy the rooms. Every room has its own interesting dynamics. It's not too big of a map. There are some bigger open spaces, which I'm not a fan of, generally speaking, like the that little balcony area where it has the lower floor and the higher floor. That sucks to try to engage anybody. It sucks to engage anybody in that area. But honestly, every other part of the map is amazing. I love the geometry of the map. There's some really cool rooms that you can do. There's rooms side by side and all this stuff. So it creates for interesting dynamics and angles. So I really love Sins of the Father. Honestly, it's really an awesome map. Also on this map, the difficulty is essentially raised a lot more because the enemies do have higher caliber weapons, much more deadly, much more, and a little bit harder to kill simply because they have those higher grade plates on. So it is definitely a difficulty increase without feeling unfair. There's also some traps on the map, so it does create for a much more well-rounded kind of map where you are reaching and clearing and there's traps and you got to cut the traps and you got to be aware of that. It makes you feel really good in a team, especially if you're doing this map with a dedicated group of people instead of just AI, for example. But it is a very fun map. I do like a lot of the dynamic situations that you can get put in, and also just including the geometry of the map. It's super cool. You're doing kind of clearing room by room. It's definitely a really fun map, and there's not too many big open areas that you have to deal with where it feels like it's unfair, like in Greased Palms, where you're getting shot from a super far distance and you never ever know where you're getting shot from. But if you do try to return fire, you're basically always going to be at a huge disadvantage, and most of the time you just end up dying. And obviously for Valley of the Dolls, this is not a surprise to me. Everyone plays this map. I'll be honest, I'm surprised that the nightclub map is not on this list. I'm not surprised Valley of Dolls is, but people really like the nightclub, and that's usually like a super common one that I see played all the time. Sins of the Father actually kind of surprises me. I play it a lot, but I don't really ever see a lot of people playing Sins of the Father. A lot of the time I see people playing 23 Megabytes and Valley of the Dolls and the nightclub one. But seeing Sins of the Father is kind of a little bit of a surprise to me. I do kind of wish that they left Thank You Come Again out of the list, since it's kind of like, even though it is the most played by their metrics, it does feel like it is a cheat in a way where it's like, it might be the most played, but it's not the one that you are playing because you want to. It's just kind of like a playing because you have to, and people complete it and kind of just go to the next step. As for Valley of the Dolls is a very fun map as well. Once you kind of get to the outer area where there's much more areas to get shot from different angles and it becomes a little more difficult, that's kind of like the sticking point in Valley of the Dolls. Because like while you're in the house, it's not too bad. They are longer engagements, of course, but they're not as bad as they are, for example, in Greased Palms, where it feels like they are very, very far away. In Valley of the Dolls, you can still shoot them at range and still have a good sight line. You still have good visibility, generally speaking, as long as you're not going through a threshold where there is a lot of light, for example. But the Valley of the Dolls start is an awesome start, like reaching straight to the door. A lot of people like to go down the side passage, and a lot of the time these maps are very interesting because it gives you a lot of the freedom to kind of go wherever you want. Now, you only have one initial spawn location, but you can go downstairs first. You can go through the straight door, and if you do decide to go through the downstairs area, a lot of the time it does really allow you to choose kind of where you want to clear first. You can actually just speed run right to the downstairs, kind of clear that initial area and just go further down into that laundry area and clear the bottom of the house. Or you can just go straight outside. You just go through the back door, enter through that office after you clear that billiard bar room area, and you can just go straight outside to the main event area where they have all that food and they're cooking all that delicious looking food there. And you can just go straight down to that dark kind of basement area where all those creepy photos are being taken. And it honestly is just a really awesome map, and people love that map because honestly, let's be real, you come across some people who just want to shoot every single person, obviously because the undertones of everything within this map, people love to put their own brand of justice to anyone they think deserves it. And as for the geometry and the enemies, it's very similar to Sins of the Father in terms of like their kit. They do have a little bit of body armor, they have some better weapons, they are a little bit more deadly, and generally speaking, like the geometry is pretty fun to clear. I do enjoy clearing this kind of geometry. It's a big enough map where it's not too short, like Thank You Come Again or 23 Megabytes, but it's not too long of a map either, where it feels like you can hop in, play it, have a good time, and just really enjoy the map, as it does provide for some very interesting geometry. And of course, another big reason why people play Valley of the Dolls is because, well, they're trying to S rank it to get the Hawaiian shirt that everybody wants, because it's kind of like the biggest thing in Ready or Not in terms of like most notable things for cosmetics to have, since it is such a noticeable thing. It's to say, you know, it's the Hawaiian shirt in a SWAT game, but it is it's very iconic, to say the least. But anyway, that's it for the video. If you guys want me to maybe even make a tier list of the map in terms of like how fun it is, replayability, I would love to maybe even do that as well. That could be super fun to go through the maps, kind of talk about the dynamics and if it's like replayable. Some maps feel a little bit more replayable and other maps kind of feel a little bit too short. Like Thank You Come Again, it's a super short map. There's not too many fun dynamics because there's not a lot of enemies, so it doesn't really create for too many fun dynamics. Whereas something like Sins of the Father, they have a little bit more firepower. There's a few more enemies. They have more plates, so you need to be a little bit more tactical. You need to be a little bit more precise with everything. You really need to be watching your angles because they can come busting out of rooms really aggressively, and they have deadly weapons, so you will need to control the space and the angles in the area really well, especially if you're playing on those harder difficulties. But anyway, if you guys have been liking these videos that I've been posting, the last one I posted, that one took much longer because I was trying to format all of these ideas that I have of how to do this into rules and concise and precise lessons where I can kind of break it down step by step. Some of you guys like that kind of stuff, that format. It does take much longer, but that one did take a long time. But if you want to, you can check that video out too. I really appreciate that. But that is it for me. So thanks for watching and have a good day.
Don't shoot.
Enemy target.